A criminal record is a sensitive area when it comes to working with children, right? Then from there, you have to take the test. So the board is pretty tricky. It's not easy. A lot of people unfortunately fail their first time. Honest, I took the accelerated route. I had pressure on me. I was planning on getting married. I was trying to move out of my parents' house. Christian Sanon. I am the owner of Lookup Therapy. It's a pediatric therapy company for children. We work with children from the ages of 2 all the way up to about 17 years old, just helping them better their life and helping their families be able to find answers that, they're needing and wanting for their child to have the best potential that they can in this world.
Diversified Game. Learn how to start, run, and sustain your business.
Hey, it's Kellen, and today I don't want it to be a controversial interview because I really want this to give you some game, but I might have the most requested children's therapist out there in our community. Look, I'm starting, right? Because we know how this can go on the internet streets of who's the most requested. But this gentleman is so humble, so kind. Met him at a business development board meeting here in Palm Beach County, and he was telling me all the things he was doing with the kids, the youth, him and his wife. It takes teamwork to make the dream happen. Sir Christian, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How about yourself? Thanks for having me.
Oh man, thank you. And I just want to make it clear, you did not call yourself the most requested. We know there's others out there who are the most requested in everything. They're number one, especially in your field. But you're very humble. Can you tell the people? I just want to start off when you started this business, because that was like the testimony. I thought we were in church. We were in church right there in the parking lot of why you and your wife decided to open this business and when, because it wasn't during the best of times.
For sure. So, when you meet someone, you always have these dreams and ambitions to be able to create something, whether it's a family or a business or whatever. So when we first met, we thought it would be great to have a 5-year plan to open up our business. Well, that'd be 5 years after being married. That kind of sped up because of COVID. It happened in 2020. We got married. We lost our jobs. We bought a house and kind of had our backs against the wall. Losing our jobs definitely made it kind of difficult for us to really figure out what we're going to do financially, but it did give us an opportunity to really focus in on our game plan, which was creating our own business. So we started off with $2,500 in our account, right? We emptied out everything for the wedding and everything for the house and just started grinding and preparing as best as we can. So fast forward 5 years later, we're about 60 employees currently.
Now, somebody's going to hear that and say, wait, hold on, let me go on this LinkedIn, see what degrees he have, what experience, whether they have the wife or not, because that makes a big difference. We'll get into that in a second. But to get, those 60 employees, when you had this business, have you taken out like a big loan, or did venture capital come and say, we need you? How did you scale so quick? Because I don't want anyone to think that they can just do it in a flash like that and try to go get their first two sometimes is a challenge. So give us a game plan on how that came about. Are you on the hook for all these employees? Did they sign to you just because you and your wife are, special blessed people? Give us the game, please.
So I'll say that we're definitely blessed. There's nothing special to it when it comes to that, in the sense of we never took out a loan. I never had an venture capitalist. Nobody came in and spent money on us. It was all started from that $2,500. I worked direct for the majority of the time for the first year. And from there, we added on 4 employees. And due to our reputation and just, blessings, I feel like God gives us grace and an opportunity to do something big when your heart's in the right place. So we were able to multiply really quickly. Of course, as time progressed, you fine tune your marketing plan, you fine tune your HR component, and become a lot more sharper and more intentional when it comes to staffing. So we do staffing events, we do job fairs, and really try to put ourselves out there to gain as many people as possible.
Now, when, getting up to 60, was it just that you got a huge contract and said, we need to be able to fulfill all this so we can start, we know we're going to be able to guarantee people's money? Or was any of this maybe on a commission-based hey, if you guys, we'll bring you on our team, whatever you go get, we'll split. And I want to just make it so clear because so many people try to grow their business so quick, they're out of business in the first 3 years for sure, if not the first year.
Yeah. So for us, it's different, right? So we work with insurances and we work with private pay. Um, so it's really a case by case. We have approximately the same amount of students or clients. So we have 60 kids, and for the numbers kind of correspond where it's like 1-to-1 ratio, where they work one to one. So for us, it was really just fine tuning our um, I guess you could say our recruitment, right? So we used Indeed. We started reaching out to former people that we'd worked with, right? So since we had a good reputation while we did work as therapists prior, a lot of people were searching for our company since we left other companies.
Okay. And I talked about your wife earlier. How important was it for, your wife to be, have similar talents, interests, support? So many people start a business, male, female, doesn't matter, and their spouse doesn't get it. Therefore, they don't know how to support them. Give us the kind of roadmap. So for that person fussing right now in the car, in the train, in the bed, waking up, saying, how do you work with your wife? I hear it all the time myself. People don't believe me. It can get spicy, but you might have a solution for them and to clear all that up.
Well, I think the most important thing, the vision has to align. I believe that often, for us men, we feel like we have the full vision for what our family should look like, what our business should look like, and we'll have people tag along for our dream, right? When you're talking about a partnership, it has to be shared. It has to be a shared interest. You have to be able to analyze what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are, and make sure that your partner is supporting that weak area. If you have two ball dominant players, is what I say, then you end up being like, the Knicks back in 2018, or, so you kind of have to really look at it in that sense. It's like, how are you going to share this responsibility? And are we okay having these roles, right? So a lot of times people aren't okay with roles. When it comes to our marriage, everyone plays a position and we understand that's for the greater good.
You mentioned the Knicks. I thought you were gonna go Golden State Warriors. I'm from Okanda, so but are you from New York? Is that why you mentioned the Knicks? Give people where you're from.
Hello, everyone. Come along with London and Sydney as they show you around the vibrant country of Cameroon. We explore the heart of Africa through the eyes of London and Sydney. Two explorers who journey across the great city of Yaoundé, exploring its rich culture, vibrant market squares, cultural heritage, and wildlife. With giggles and excitement, London and Sydney Explore Cameroon takes you on a fun-filled adventure, providing insight into the country's culture and traditions through the pages of this book. It's packed with exciting stories and super cool facts about Cameroon that will make you go, wow. Get your copy now, available on Amazon and in libraries near you. There's only one easy way to experience the exploration of Cameroon, and it's through London and Sydney. Don't wait, get yours.
Well, I'm from a lot of places. I was born in New York, but my parents were missionaries, so I bounced around quite a bit. Lived in St. Louis. I lived in Springfield, Massachusetts. My dad worked for Florida Baptist Convention, so lived all over Florida, some time in Dominican Republic, a little bit of time in Haiti. So we've been everywhere.
Man, that's a blessing. Shout out to Springfield, Mass. 413. I got married out
There you
there, and
go.
yeah. Just I has a special place in my heart. All those places do, because I'm trying to get to Haiti for that permanent residency, as I told you with the familia. Your wife doing this. Were her parents also missionaries? Because you might have the heart of missionaries growing up. Did she grow up in the same way?
She definitely grew up in a Christian household, but they were more stable. So that's something that's great for me. And that's why I say it's important to have someone that kind of like strengthens your weaknesses, right? So for myself, instability was kind of the nature, right? I got used to moving a lot. I got used to being creative and resourceful with things because we didn't really have an abundance, right? So if you're moving, you really don't have roots. Whereas for her, she was raised and born in the same area, went to school in Florida. So her connection is very rooted in South Florida, whereas for myself, I had to network and go out there and hustle and meet people, you know, so it's a little bit different.
And I'm audience. I'm not being funny, but the places he mentioned, from New York to Springfield to St. Louis. If you've ever been to East St. Louis, I went to school in Kansas. If you've ever been to, you cross the border to Missouri, and you get to East St. Louis, and you say, "Oh, I'm in Oakland. I'm in," you know. And then you talk about Haiti, which, you know, you might have been in OCAP and it might have all been peaceful, but it sounds like your dad was really on a mission, to be where, you know, Jesus would have went, where there's some problems. With that, you have the heart of a missionary. I'm sure, just in the short conversation that we had, even in the parking lot, can you tell the people a community give back that you and or your company is doing, or that you want to do in the future?
Sure. So there's quite a bit. Um, the most relevant one would be the Belglades that we're doing. Belglade, Pahokee, and South Bay. We're offering free RBT trainings, with the goal of trying to increase their economy, right? So just being able to get that certification, it's a 40-hour course and a GED. From there, you take the test and you can make $18 the next day, right? And upwards of $25 to $30, depending on where you're at and what type of clientele that you're working with. For that community, because it's such a rural area, it can really help a lot of families. So that's our number one mission, is to do that. Secondly, I'd love to be able to have our own school. So in 2026, that's the goal, is our nonprofits Beyond the Valley is to create our own school that's more inclusive, that's able to be ran by therapists. I think the climate of education is changing. It's not the same structure as it was before, where you need a combination of OT, mental health, ABA therapy to really get these kids to their full potential.
Okay, and please, I know you gave the acronym for the training in Belglade. I'm going to bother you about that. If you have any flyers, anything, links, I want to make sure I share that to even my personal connects. But what was that training? Talk more about that. What does it allow people to do? Because some people might say, "Hey, I'm a therapist now," and they had their 40 hours. And, you know, we sometimes misinterpret things. I want to make sure it's very clear. This is not the Burn Your Leisure podcast, where we're just, you know, telling people you can snap your fingers and things just happen and you're rich. So please share more about that training.
Yeah, so an RBT is a registered behavioral therapist, a technician that works under a BCBA, which is a board certified behavior analyst. So they cannot work independently. They have to have a supervisor above them to work direct with a child with ADHD, autism, or any kind of trauma-based um, diagnosis that they might have. So with that certification, you know, you're able to work in the schools, you can work in the home, or you can work, you know, in a clinic setting, but it has to be under a BCBA. So a lot of people say, "Oh, I have the certification," just like you said, and then try to start their own business and say that they can babysit people, but that RBT specifically has to follow an intervention that is designed by a BCBA.
Okay, and, you know, to then move up, would they have to then get a bachelor's degree? And would it have to be in therapy, behavioral health? Give some more game, because people say, "Oh, okay, that could be a start or a launch pad." But what if I already have a degree? You know, please go a little more deeper, because I will get inboxes and people will ask me, and I want to make sure it's clear here.
Definitely. So the next route would be to become a BCBA or a BCABA. So the BCABA is an assistant, and a BCBA is basically the head honcho. So with that, you have to have a bachelor's degree. Number one, it could be under for anything. And your master's degree can also be with anything, but you have to take ABA specific courses. And ABA is applied behavioral analysis. So once you take those specific courses and you do up to, I believe, 2,000 hours of volunteer or internship, then from there, you have to take the test. So the board is pretty tricky. It's not easy. A lot of people unfortunately fail their first time, but with the right, you know, support through a company, through a mentor, you're able to pass the first time. And from there, you can make up to 50 to God knows how much money now per hour.
Oh, wow. Now, for the person who, and I always like to use myself for an example. The audience has seen me. I've had people here where they talk about buying land cheap, and I've showed the audience, oh, I'll go buy that land. I'll show you how to do it, and I'll show you how to do it within a budget that is, your typical budget, or even a lower budget, even, because I don't want people to think that you instantly get rich or you can quickly get rich. So let's do it piece by piece. Even if I can't pay that land off, I will take my time. But let's say I have a master's in mass communication, my bachelor's is in political science. I have my business, but if I say, oh, I want to try this, could I then go take the BCBA? How much hours of training would that be? And then could I work under your company, or would I have to start my own or a joint venture? And please we're going to go deep into this because people are hurting, especially if you didn't choose wisely for your degree. I was willing to go broke for mine. But 2 decades later, thank God things are working out.
For sure. For sure. So I wish it was that easy that you could just snap your fingers and be able to just start as a BCBA and start your own company. The most important thing is that you have to take the coursework. So regardless if you have a master's degree or not, you have to take the ABA coursework to even start collecting your hours of internship. So it's a 2,000 hour spread where 1,000 hours goes towards directly working with clients, and the other 1,000 hours goes towards doing what we call indirect. So that can be assessment, that can be looking over data, it can be writing up paperwork and research, whatever that means. But you would have to have that supervised by a BCBA before you can even take the test. This typically takes about a year and a half to go through the entire process, which I tell everyone it's worth the year and a half. If you're going to do anything, just commit to it fully and go for the biggest one that you can. A lot of people settle to become a BCABA, but the industry is slowly pushing that position out because it just doesn't, it's almost like it's the best way to say it. It's almost like a glorified RBT. So you're going to be able to do the same direct work, but on top of that, you're doing the BCBA work with less compensation. So it makes more sense to just do the full year and a half, 2 years, and become the BCBA, where then you'll be able to potentially open up your own company. You can become a clinical director. There's so many different angles that you can take it to be successful.
And is this something that somebody can still go to work, go to school, or double dip? Because some people say, well, I can't stop, I'm already, this is how I pay my bills, or I'm already in school. Can they double dip? And if they did do it full time, could they do it quicker than a year and a half? Because it sounds like it's just you got to find the clients to do your hours and do the right thing. You're not just sitting there, you're actually doing work, people. So kind of let us know on the accelerated path, how quick have you seen someone do it, as well as can they have a job or do what they're already doing in school?
Yeah, so you can do both. I'll be honest. I took the accelerated route. I had pressure on me. I was planning on getting married. I was trying to move out of my parents' house, and I knew that I needed to make a decision as quickly as possible. So I did mine in a year and a half, working 3 jobs. I'd work full time as an RBT, then part time as an RBT, and then I'd work overnight just because of the fact that I was on an accelerated path while being in classes. So it's all about the individual. If you want it, you can get it quickly. If you want to take your time, then that's up to you too. And also understand that depends on how you learn. I was able to finish mine in a year and a half, and then from there, I think it was 90 days later, took my test. So I took 3 months to fully be able to study every single day for 20 hours a day to make sure I passed the first time. So it's all on effort. I think anything is possible depending on what you want to get done and how quickly you need it.
I can hear someone say, wait, Kellen, you're always talking about healthcare, but I can't touch any blood and I'm not good at math. For them to fulfill this, do they have to touch any blood or stool? I remember doing that as a supervisor at the ART program in Holyoke at the Sisters of Providence. And I said, I'm not doing that. That young man can handle his stool. Okay, I'm a problem. but do they have to touch stool or blood, and do they have to be good at math to be able to be successful?
So I'd say no to math. Now you're working with children. So will you be exposed to blood often? No, but they do scrape their knees, they might bump their heads, whatever the case may be. As a human being, you should be able to put on a Band-Aid, God forbid if something happens. As far as like stool, depends on the setting. So if you're in a clinic setting with children from the ages of 2 to 6, you might have to change a diaper or two. So it all depends. So you have choices. No one's forcing anyone because it has to fall into your job description.
Okay, and you guys who don't have kids, I use myself as an example. When I had my first one, my wife laughs to this day. For the first couple of diapers, I had gloves on, and then you find out, oh, I ain't got time for this. You got to clean this up quicker in the small bathroom, on the plane, wherever you're at, right? So don't let that stop you or say, oh, I can't do it. You talk about the clinical settings. I've done that. But you also talked about people working in homes. When you're doing your training, can you pick and choose and say, look, I'd rather go to people's homes, or can I be virtual with it? Is that possible?
So virtual, no, because you do have to have the hands-on experience. That's probably the most important thing that I would say as a clinical director of our company is that take advantage of all settings. And the reason why I say that, don't limit how much you can make in life. When people are so choosy and they pick, oh, I don't want to work in home, or I don't want to work here, I don't want to work there, then you put yourself in the box. And so when it comes time to get hired, now you're limited. I'd rather go with the candidate who's more open, than saying I don't want to go in home. Now, if you tell me that I don't want to go in home because of these factors, then I'm able to support in that setting to make sure that doesn't happen, or put you in the right particular family that supports, your growth and your need.
And I'm going deep on this because I want people, especially in this Palm Beach area. I've met so many good people. I told you in the parking lot, I'm pushing for the Haitians to accelerate and get the information. The new Haitians that have come here don't necessarily understand our system the same way we would understand theirs if we went to Haiti. And is there a need for Haitians especially, but even Black males? And when I say that, I can hear someone say, hey, I might have had something on my record, 10 years ago or 20, 30 years ago. Could I even do that? Which I worked with felons in mental health. But for Florida and for what you're doing, please let it, any barriers, whether it's language or if you've been here long enough, does that stop you from working with the youth and the population you're working with?
Definitely a criminal record is a sensitive area when it comes to working with children, right? Because you're doing multiple backgrounds. And on top of that, if you're trying to get approved for a Medicaid provider ID number, they're more than likely going to reject you, which then is going to limit how many children that you're able to work with or be around. I do know that Medicaid makes exceptions if it's been something that's been worked out in the court, maybe it's been a few years back, whatever the case may be, but it's kind of like a case to case situation, whereas when it comes to like a language barrier now with Palm Beach County, we're so diverse. We have Creole speaking, we have English, Spanish, French. There's so many agencies that are welcoming depending on that language. Especially if you're working in someone's home, speaking that native language is a huge thing because you're able to connect with the parent, which is important. Although you're a therapist with that child, the carryover really happens in the home. If that parent knows what you're doing, if they feel supported, if they feel like you understand their culture, then they're more willing to be able to help their child in the same fashion that you would. So I'd say that would probably be the only limitation would be like a background. So if you have a criminal record, it could be challenging to get into the field.
Okay. But if you have an expungement, you guys something's been cleared up or it's been many a decade and you weren't violating children or women or something violent, try your hand. Go into more details and see. Because again, I was shocked even working my first job at the Methodist Children's Home in Ruston, Louisiana, guy was like, these are like jail beds. And I'm like, oh, what do you mean? He's like, you haven't been to jail? I said, no, no. And he was like, yeah, I have. And he was working with you. And, he was a good worker. He was actually a supervisor at one point. But I've worked with others who have had different issues. So I just like it to be clear, because I like working with the population that no one else likes working with. I like working with the person who was violent to everybody, and when they come in, they got a chip on their shoulder, because I can relate with that person, because you were my cousin, my primo. You were my you were my friend growing up, who I might have had two parents, but who knows what your situation is. And I never had an issue with those people. My issue is with the system of, how the system makes you stop what you might need to say. Your mother needs to tell you some things sometimes. Your daddy needed to, maybe put your hands on you real quick and let you know, not in the most violent way, but to let you know, I'm here and you're going to follow some order. And the system is it's getting very soft, where a beating saved my life. A couple or a few of them saved my life. Why I'm here, because that's the way I needed to hear it in the 80s in Oakland, California, in the whole Bay. With, the new system and how things are going, what are we doing right? What are we doing wrong with raising our children, no matter their situation? Were spankings, like the scriptures say, a good thing so we don't lose the child? Is that why so many people are wayward? Like, help us out as parents.
Well, so I think the biggest thing is that there's a misconception that one system works. Every child's different, right? So I work with children directly on a therapeutic level with their behaviors. Then I also have my two that I have at home. So with one child, for me, it works when I talk sternly. The other one, it doesn't matter. It's in one ear, out the other. So I need to take my time and have patience as a parent to figure out how I communicate to that child to get the same message through. So I think that's number one. Number two, parents need to spend time with their kids. I know it's very difficult. I know it's a sacrifice, but the TV is not a parent. So by spending that time, you build rapport with that child so that they're more likely to listen to you instead of listening to their friends, listening to teachers, and other sorts. Number three, be involved in every area of their life, which means the academics. Do not just go in there and trust the school to be able to discipline your child, educate your child, and teach your child about themselves. Give them an identity and let them know who they are and build their character. I think that what I'm witnessing with a lot of parents now, the expectations at the school, since they spend the most time with their child, needs to meet all of these requirements. And that's not the case anymore. Now we need to make sure that we're doing our job, which means it might be 5-10 minutes of being outside, running around, getting yourself exhausted and sweaty, where that kid feels like, whoa, dad, mom, you're part of my life. Now what can we do? And utilizing, reinforcement. So I think more importantly than doing the whole punishment system, right? So that's kind of what I was raised on as, having my parents that are Haitian, you'll get a couple of, spankings here and there. You might get timeout, whatever the case may be. But probably setting up a system where you give that child a small win every single time they listen to you. And then changing that small win to where it's like, okay, well, you got it last time, but it doesn't mean that you'll get it this time. Let's try it again. And then you reinforce them that third or fourth time, because then they don't know when they're getting, reinforced for the positive behavior. It takes time. It's very tricky. But I think that when you start young and you build them into the culture and the system that you want them to be in, the more successful that you'll be.
I love this. You guys, I told Christian I'd get him out by a certain time and that I could go Joe Rogan style. If I go any longer, I probably will. But I do want to say, Christian, when you guys do something in Belgrade, I'd love for you to send me an email, a text, call, whatever, so we can, share it within our network. You may be seeing me. Who knows? I might show the audience how you can get your BCBA if I could find the time and it makes sense, because I love just learning skill set, but I also love giving y'all the game. That's why I do this show, because I want you to understand life is grand, but just keep learning and earning. And if you guys, I know majority of you are listeners, but if you go over to the YouTube, you get to see Christian's calm demeanor, but you also get to see me bringing it back to crisscross, wearing my shirt, inside and out, backwards or forwards, taking it back to where things to me made a lot more sense. Christian, please give them your website or any of the social media, and I thank you for coming on.
Yeah, of course. No problem. Thank you for having me. So, website, www.lookuptherapy.com. That is the for-profit. That's where we do all our therapy. We do educational training. So we're teaching the teachers, we're teaching administrators through Lookup advisory and consulting. That's another branch of the business. Then we're also doing our nonprofit, which is www.beyondthevalleyfoundation.org. If you want to donate, if you want to support, volunteer, we have internships. We're really trying to make sure that we help our people as best as we can in Belgrade, Pahokee, South Bay, even in West Palm. We're paying for kids' evaluations when their insurance lapse. We're trying to do as much work as we can with the little time that God gives us on this earth. So thank you again, and just make every day excellent. Do the best you can to be the best person that you can in this world.
And you guys, I thank you for listening to the end. I'm going to see if Christian and his wife will do a podcast of their own, because I can see it, and it will coincide with the book that, I'm sure they have some pages or chapters done. I'm telling you, when God gives you the vision, it's there. But make sure you guys comment, make sure you like, but most importantly, if you do nothing else, share this game with somebody. It will change their life. Y'all be blessed.
Are you tired of the rat race in America? Are you ready to visit the motherland to relax and rejuvenate? Are you ready to explore all that Africa has to offer? Then check out the brand new Diversified Game Academy course, Prepare for My First Trip to Africa. Are you worried about being able to afford the trip? We got you. We will show you how to travel either on a budget or as a baller. Learn how to stress the value of the USD. Did you know that 100 United States dollars is worth over 1,000 South African rand, or 10,000 Kenyan shillings, or 54,250 West African CFA? Are you worried about taking your kids? Get the game from Kellen Cash, a bona fide world traveler, having traveled to almost 20 countries, several of those in Africa. Get the game on taking your kids on their first trips. Learn how to find the best tickets, get the visas, and plan your own adventures in Africa. Don't let Eddie Murphy have all the fun. Plan your own coming to Africa trip starring you, produced by you, and featuring you. If you are ready for a life-changing experience, sign up for our course today, Diversified Game Academy. Get prepared and purchase at diversifiedgame.com.